So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in the home page of Photoshop. So let's try to create up a new file before we start working. Let's click on new file right over here, and from here let's change up the name to text logo, and the orientation is fine. Width and height is okay over here. I do want a white background, and I'm ready to create up my new document. So let's click on create, and over here you guys can see that now I have my new document right over here. So let me just place it for me that I can work over here properly. And over here, if you do want to draw this ruler, let's come here and let's work up with the ruler over here, and let's go over here, and let me just put out the ruler again, and same thing I will be doing it on the sides. Okay, let's come here and let's do it right over here on the sides. So now I'll be making my logo just in between. Okay, so first thing first, what you're gonna do is you are first going to take up your text. Okay, so now you need to think that what kind of text are you going to take, or what using what letters are you going to create your logo. So will it be one letter, will it be two letters, or it will be multiple letters right over here. Okay, so you need to think about that. So for that, now let's just click over here once, and now I will just click on delete, and after that let me just type a. Okay, and now let's take my selection tool, let's not select any layer, and again let's take my text tool, and over here now I'm going to type B. Okay, so let me just type A and B right over here. And now once you are done, let's take my selection tool again, and let's try to bring this over here in the center. Okay, so the same, let's select this one, and let's try to bring both of this over here in the center as well. Okay, so now let's take out this layer, and after that, if you do want to change out the font over here, now I will just come into my properties option, and from my properties option, let's check out the font using which I do want to work with. Okay, so over here, there are a lot of options you guys can use. Let me take this Gothic bold, and the same I will just do with this one. Okay, so let's double click over here. Let's go, and let's take the Gothic bold over here itself. Okay, so let's click on enter to transform, and if you don't zoom in, Control plus from your keyboard, and you guys can zoom in quite well. Okay, so if you do want to move out this layer, you guys can come here, and you guys can actually move out all these layers right over here itself. Okay, so if you do want to move it up, you guys can come here, and you guys can actually move it up right over here. So let me just keep the A on top of the B, and here you guys can just select both this. Let's say you guys can select, and if you do want to expand at the same time, you guys can expand as well. Okay, so let's control T over here. Let's click on shift, and you guys can just increase the size accordingly. Let's say I'll just click on shift, and let's increase the size right over here. Let's click on enter to transform, and now let's zoom out. Okay, so I'll just zoom out a little bit, and again what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try to place this thing right over here in the center. Okay, so if you're not able to do it quite over here, you guys can just go to your libraries, or you guys can just come to the properties option, and from here basically you guys can actually align those things. Okay, so under paragraph over here, if you do want to align here, you guys can see you do have the alignment option. Let's try to come over here and let's try to double click. Let's say I will take this layer, Control T, and you guys can just move this thing all along. Okay, so let me just put this particular layer right over here. Let me just put this layer, and after that let me just move this one on top a little bit. Okay, and once you're done, let's click on enter, and at the same time let's select this, Control T to transform, and let me just move this one onto this particular side as well. Okay, so let's come here and let me just place it right over here. So now once you are done with this thing here, now you guys can just change the color of both of these things as well. Okay, so if you do want to change the color, you guys can also do that. But now let me just select this layer, and after selecting this layer, you guys can just go to select, and over here now you guys can just select all. Okay, let me just click on select all, and if you do want to inverse it, you guys can come here and inverse that as well. But the best thing in here will be if you come here into your toolbar. In your toolbar here, you guys can see that you do have the quick selection tool. Okay, so if you just click right over here, you guys can see they do have selected this particular word for me right over here. Okay, so once they have selected this one, now let's come over here into my menu bar over here on top. From there, let's go to select, and from select, let's click on modify, and from modify let's click on expand. Okay, so over here you guys can select that how much do you want to expand, and apply effect and canvas bound. Okay, let's come here, let's put 25, and if I do want to see it how 25 looks here, let me just check this out, and at the same time let's go with 50, and let me just apply those thing again. And over here now, if I just click on apply here, you guys can see this one looks too much. But let's go again, and you guys can just change it around. Let's go to expand, let's go to 20, and if you just click on enter here, you guys can see you guys can just go back, let's say Control Z, and over here let's go to select option again, let's go to modify, let's go to expand, and I will just go with 15, and let's click on OK right over here, and yeah, 15 kind of looks good. Okay, so once you're done, now let's select this B panel. Okay, and once you have selected this particular B panel, now what I'm gonna do is I will click on delete from my keyboard. Okay, so over here now let's click on OK, and before that make sure to rasterize the layer. Okay, so let's come here, let's just rasterize this layer, right click on here, you guys can just rasterize this particular layer as well. Okay, so let's click on B, and now make sure to delete this particular part, and now again Control D to deselect. Okay, so over here you guys can see how it is being applied right over here. If you do want to decrease the gap in between, you guys can come here and you guys can basically decrease the gap in between quite like this. Okay, so now over here, if you just take up a look, in some parts of the B, that is not looking quite great. Okay, so if you want to smooth it up, or let's say you want to delete some part from here, so for that I need to come here first, and maybe I will just take up a closer look. Okay, and now once you have taken up a closer look, let's take my marquee tool from my toolbar, and let's just first select where all do you want to remove it. Okay, so let's click here, and from here let's select this particular part, and now let's click on delete and control D to deselect. And the same way I will come here, and now I'll just click on delete, control D to deselect. You guys can just take up your own time to perfect this one. So let's click on delete right over here again, and lastly let's select this part and let's hit on delete right over here again, and control D to deselect on this part, and this area kind of looks good. Okay, so next thing left over here is this top part. Okay, so over here now again, control plus to zoom in. Let's come here, let's zoom into this part, and over here now I'm going to make up a line. Okay, so let's try and make up a straight line, and now let's delete and control D to deselect. So this one looks a lot better. Control minus over here, and once this part is done, let's come to this particular point over here, and let's make up a cut onto the sides as well. Okay, so now let's come here and let's put up a thin line. Okay, not too deep. This doesn't look that great. Control Z, and I need to make sure that I do create a same line. Okay, so let's come here, and from here let's try to get out same line, and over here if I just delete and control D to deselect, here you guys can see how it actually looks. Okay, so now this is how it actually looks. And if you don't want to modify it, let's come here, and here you guys can see there are different shape. Let's take my ellipse from here, and let me just modify it right over here. Okay, so I will just modify it right over here, and if you do want to place it, you guys can come here and basically place it right over here in the center. And the same way, let's take another circle, and from here let's click on shift now, and let's click on shift over here, and let's create a circle right over here itself. Okay, and now again I'll take my selection tool, and I will just place it somewhere around here. Okay, so now once this part is done over here, now the next thing is basically you applying colors to it. Okay, so now I want to just apply some different colors to it. Let's go to ellipse, and I don't want any stroke for this. Okay, so I don't want any stroke, and the same with the other circle, I don't want any stroke. Okay, so now the logo is almost done over here. As you guys can see, I do have trimmed these parts down whatever I needed. I do have actually worked all with all of this, and the next part is I come here and basically I do create, or I do put on some gradient and stuff like that. Okay, so for that, if you do want to check out some colors, let's come here and let's go to my Chrome. So from here, let's type for Google Chrome, and from here let's go to color hunt. I have told you guys about that particular website. Let's click on color hunt, and over here I want to check out different kind of color palettes. Okay, so here you guys can see there are a lot of color palettes which we can basically use. Okay, so over here there are a lot of color palettes which can be of our usage, but all we need is we need to select it right from here, like what all colors do we want inside our uh, logo. Okay, so you guys can choose a lot from here. Okay, and over here if you do want to take any of this, okay, you guys need to come here, and basically you guys can just come over here, and if you do want to download this image, let's click on that image, and here that particular image is being downloaded. Okay, and once this is done, let's come here, let's close this one down. Let's say I want to use all the colors present right over here, and let me take another color palette over here as well. Okay, so if I do want to use it for a different thing, okay, let's come here and let's type for color hunt again, and let's come over here on top and let's search for the popular color palettes. Okay, so these are a few of the popular color palettes over here, and from here let me just take this one and let me download the image itself. Okay, so I do have downloaded two kind of color palettes in form of an image. Let's close down my browser, and now I do want to place those images right on top that I can pick the colors and place it anywhere I want. Okay, so to do that basically, first thing you need to go here into your menu bar on top. Let's go to file, and from file over here you need to place those images. Okay, and how you will place that, there is an option called place embedded. Okay, so from there if you just click on place embedded, let's go to my downloads. Let me select both of this, or let me just select one first, and let me control minus, and let me just decrease the size from here, and let me just place it right over here on top. Let's click on enter, and the same way let's go to file, let's go to place embedded, let's take this color, let's click on place, and I do have that particular color palette. Let's click on shift, and let me just decrease the size, and let me just put this image just beside this one, and let's click on enter. So now here you guys can see that I do have my color palettes which I do want to use for my logo right here as well. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part. So here you guys can see that I do have a lot of layers. Okay, so if I do want to group those layers, let me just select both of these layers, and let's click on Ctrl G, and let's double click, and I will just name this one as colors, that I don't get confused. Okay, so I'll just put these layers as colors over here, and now let's come here and let's select my A layer first. Okay, so once you have selected your A layer, now let's go to this effect, and from here let's click on blending options. Okay, so once you're over here in the blending options, here you guys can see there is an option called gradient overlay. Okay, so from the gradient overlay here you guys can see, I'll check what is the normal blending mode, what is the opacity, but now onto the gradient I will just double click, and over here I will just choose out the color. Okay, so from here let me just take this one, and from here let me take this green color, and let's click on OK. And now if you do want to add another one, okay, you guys can come here and you guys can basically add another one. Okay, otherwise let me just double click, and from here let me just pick out this color, and let me click on OK right over here, and I'll just click on OK right over here itself. And as this is done, the scaling is fine as well. Let me click on OK over here. And now the next one is, let's go to the letter B, which is this one. And now let me add some more colors to it. Okay, so let's come here into the effects again. Let's go to gradient overlay, and let's click on gradient, and let's double click over here, and from here let me just take out this color. Let's click on OK, and lastly let's double click, or let's go back once, and let's move this slider, and if you do want to delete it, you guys can come here, and basically you guys can select this one, and you guys can delete this as well from your keyboard. Okay, so I will just double click over here, and from here let's take out this color, and this is how it actually looks. So this is how it's turning out. If you do want to give this one up a different option, let's say instead of radial, if I just go with linear options, that is also fine. Okay, and the same way I will also apply different things right over here as well. Okay, so let me just double click over here onto this particular shape, and from here let's go to gradient overlay, and under the gradient overlay let's double click again, and let's double click right over here. And if you don't want to pick out any color, let me pick this one, and again let's click on OK. Let's double click right over here, and let me just pick out the darker shade, or let me just go with this particular shade, and let's click on OK. Let's click OK over here, and instead of linear, let's go with the radial color. Okay, so if you do want to go out with the radial color, but I feel both the colors are looking exactly the same. Okay, so let's double click, and from here, otherwise let's go with a darker color or a darker shade over here, or let's go with a bit of faded one. So I'll just click on OK over here. Let's click OK, and I'll just click on OK right over here again. And the same way, now let's select this, and from here let's try to find out my gradient overlay again. So let's find the gradient overlay again. Let's try to apply some more colors. Okay, so let me just click over here, and for the first color, let me just go with this one. Let's click on OK, and for the second color, let me just go out with a white. Okay, so if you do want to do that, you guys can do that over here as well. Otherwise, if you just want to swap sides, you guys can also do that right over here itself. Okay, so let me just come over here. Otherwise, let me just place it, and let me just place up the whites over here itself. Let's click on OK, and if you do want to change it, you guys can come here and you guys can change this right over here as well. And if you do want to scale it up, or let's say 90 degrees, and you just scale it up quite a bit, you guys can also do that. Otherwise, instead of going with gradient color, if you try to go with some simple color, you guys can also do that. Let's click on OK, and over here also I will just go with some simple looking color over here. Okay, let's click on, let's right click over here, and let's choose out this ellipse. Okay, otherwise let's cancel this one over here. If you do want me to select, let's select this one, and from here now I will just turn off my gradient overlay. So let's select this, and if you do want to turn it off, you guys can come here and basically you guys can turn it off and just go with the color overlay. Okay, so I will just click on OK right over here, and this is being basically applied. Let's go to fill, and from here let me just keep out those colors as well. And now again, if you do want to give this one any kind of stroke, in that case you guys can come here and you guys can apply some strokes over here as well. Okay, so let me just select this letter, and on this particular letter let's go to the blending options, and from blending options here you guys can see that I do have the option of stroke. Okay, so if you do want to go with something dark, let's click on OK, and instead of 1, let's go with 3, and let's click on OK right over here, and let's choose the B layer. Same way, let's go to blending options, let's click on stroke directly, And from here, instead of 1, let's go with 2, or let's type 3 itself. Otherwise 2 was fine. And I will just change up the color to black. Okay, so I'll just do that. And the same way, let's come here and I'll just click on OK. Let's choose this layer or this particular ellipse, and let me just put out a stroke over here as well. Okay, so let's come here, and from here let's go to this option. Let's put on stroke. Let's select stroke over here, and from here let's go with 2. And the same way, let's come here, let's go to the effects, let's go to blending options, and from here now I will again go to stroke, and I will just put on 2 over here as well. So once you're done here, you guys can see that I do have a stunning logo over here on my screen. If you do want to add on some shadows to it, you guys can come here and basically add on some drop shadows itself. Okay, so let me just choose the layer A and layer B. And after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna deselect this layer. Let's select B, and let's select A using Control. So let's select B, let's click on Control, and let's select A. And if you do want to apply some, you guys can come here and you guys can do that. If you do want to link layers, okay, you guys can come here and you guys can link layers all together as well. Okay, so over here, if you do want to work, okay, you guys can come here and you guys can work with these layers as well. Let's click on drop shadow, and let's check how this particular drop shadow basically works. Okay, so if you do want to increase the opacity, you guys can increase the opacity a little bit. Then over here you guys can just decrease the distance and decrease the spread, and also you guys can decrease the size. But now you guys can actually come here and maybe put this one around 28. Let's decrease the size over here. Let's just decrease the spread, and also let's just put out the distance around 12. Okay, so I'll just put out the distance around 12. Let's try to move this one around 18. And over here for size, let me go with 6. Okay, so the size 6 is fine. Let's click on OK over here, and the same thing I will apply over here as well. Okay, into the B layer, let's go to effects. From here, let's click on drop shadow and just apply the same thing. Okay, so you just can come around right over here. Okay, now let me just decrease the distance. Maybe I'll just keep it somewhere over here, and you guys can just increase the spread a little bit. And if you do want to decrease the size, and at the same time just change the opacity maybe around 20. Okay, so I'll just change it. Let's click on enter, and this is being applied quite well. So after that, if you do want to check out, or if you do want to group everything, okay, so let's come here, let's select all of this and Control G to group. And now I will name this one as text logo. And once this is done, now the next part is you want to see how it actually looks. Okay, so to do that, let's come here and let's open up a mockup file. So you guys can go to your search engine, and from there basically you guys can go to freepik.com, and there are also other websites from where you guys can actually download different kind of mockup files. Okay, so in that case you guys can do that. Now for me, I will just click on file. Let's click on open, and over here, let's go to desktop. From desktop, let's select my resource file, and from my resource file, let's search for the PSD file. Okay, so over here you guys can see I do have this file. Let's open it up. So over here you guys can see that I do have opened up my file right over here. Okay, and once you have done, let's double click onto this rasterized layer, and here you guys can see I'll just click on OK over here. And now let's turn this one off, and what you're gonna do is you are going to take out the logo which you have designed, and you're gonna take this logo right over here and basically paste it. Okay, so Control T, and let's increase the size using Shift, and let's come here, let's just place it or try to place it over here in the center. Okay, let's try to place it over here in the center, and once you are done, let's place it over here in the center. Let's click on transform, and once this particular part is basically done, or let's say I do have left out something. Okay, so over here, let's check out my layers, and from here I guess I do have left out a few of the thing. Okay, so if I just move this one up here, Control Z again, and let's select, or let's try to select each and everything over here including the ellipse, and I want to move those things apart. Okay, so if you do wanna move this thing, let's come here, and here you guys can have that layer right over here. So let me just select this one, and let's click on delete, and the same way let's click this one and let's click on delete. Now let's try here, and let's try to move this thing up. Okay, so I do have this particular text layer. Let's try to move this thing up, and let me just place it over here again. Otherwise, let's first increase the size. Control T, and let's try to increase the size quite like this. Let me try to put it over here in the center. Let's click on transform option. Let's select this one, and let me just place it right over here. Control T, and let's click on shift to move it up, and let me just keep it right over here in the center, and let's click on enter, and the same way Control T, and let's click on shift to increase its size as well. Now let me just move this one right over here itself. Let's click on transform. Now let's place it right over here. So now once this is done, okay, so this particular part is basically done, and now let's close this one. And what you're gonna do is you're going to save this file. Let's click on file, and over here I will just click on save. Otherwise I can just click on Control S from my keyboard as well. And once you are okay with this one, let's go to file, and I will just click on close. Okay, so I will click on close, and here you guys can see how your logo basically looks on this particular mockup. Okay, so Control plus to check out how your logo turned out, and this one looks quite amazing. So yeah, I hope this class was clear how you will be able to create a logo, and after that how you will also be able to get a mock-up of your logo as well. So lastly, to export this file, let's go to file, let's click on export, and I'll just click on quick export as PNG, and let me just name this one as letter logo. letter logo, and from here let's click on save and it will be saved. And lastly, let's take out this file. Let's go to file, let's go to export, and let's quick export as PNG, and I'll name this one as letter logo mockup. And let's click on save, and this particular file is being saved as well. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.